Hello, my name is Becky Sake. I'm an English anaesthetic registrar currently working in intensive care in Sydney. This presentation is about organ donation, not really the concept of whether it's a good or a bad idea, but for those patients who have registered their wishes to become organ donors, it is our responsibility to facilitate that wherever possible. It is therefore crucial that we are able to identify those patients that could possibly become organ donors and have some understanding of the process that happens after those patients are identified. Australia is really lagging behind the rest of the world when it comes to this topic. Now, because of that, there are a lot of people in Australia waiting for organs. Now, only about 1% of people actually die in circumstances where organ donation is possible. But because of the nature of the way that they present, as people working in critical care, we come across these people. And so it's absolutely crucial that they are identified and the appropriate processes then take place. It has to be said that although there aren't very many transplants in Australia, it's the world leader for transplant outcomes. So there's a useful mnemonic, GIVE. If you have a patient with a GCS of less than 5, who's intubated, ventilated, and you're having end-of-life discussions, consider this patient for organ donation. So after you've found a patient who meets the GIVE criteria, the next person to call is the organ transplant coordinator, who will be available through your hospital switchboard. They're usually people with a background of intensive care nursing who are specially trained in this area. The next thing to facilitate is a discussion with the family. Now, it doesn't really matter who does that. It may be the organ transplant coordinator, it may be the boss, it may be a combination, but it just needs to be done with skill and tact. Then there'll be one of 3 outcomes. Either it will be decided the patient is not for organ donation, in which case they'll be palliated appropriately, or there will be the decision to donate after brain death or after cardiac death, which includes corneal and tissue donation. So Australia has an opt-in system. It's not assumed that you would like to have your organs donated. You have to sign up to the register. And donation will never take place without a family consultation. However, in Australia, the next of kin does not have to give consent. It's different in different countries. So everyone feels very uncomfortable with proceeding with organ donation without the support of the family. And so, especially if there's a patient that's on the register and the family are not giving their consent, they're encouraged to consider what the patient would have wanted. The donor will always remain in the hospital where they die, and the retrieval team will come to them. None of the major religious groups are against organ donation, including, of note, Jehovah's Witnesses will both give and receive organs. So never assume, because of the background of the patient, that they would not want to be considered for organ donation. So there's donation after brain death, which is a very specific situation where the patient's heart will continue beating, but they will be brain dead. So this will happen when they're on the ventilator, usually in intensive care. And for you to consider that they may have reached brain death, they must have a GCS of 3 with non-reacting pupils, no reflexes, and no efforts of breathing. These patients have more transplant options, and the recipients have better outcomes. If it's considered that a patient might have become brainstem dead, a certain set of tests need to be done. These are done by 2 different doctors at 2 different times, and the time of death is recorded at the time of the second test. There's a pro forma for the test available on the internet, and I'll tell you the website you can get that from later. Donation after cardiac death is when a patient has a catastrophic brain injury and is not expected to recover, but is not brain stem dead. They will be taken to theatre and extubated in a controlled environment. They have to reach asystole within 90 minutes for solid organ donation to be possible. And families have to be warned that if that doesn't happen, they will be brought back from theatre and will be palliated on the ward. Tissues can still be donated within 24 hours of cardiac death. Tissue and corneal donation should never be forgotten and allows patients with conditions such as malignancy to donate where they wouldn't be eligible for solid organ donation. After a patient has been identified as an organ donor, it takes a minimum of 12 hours to gather the information and personnel involved in the organ donation. And so that's information, blood tests, brainstem testing, the retrieval teams, and to mobilise the recipient. And during that time, the patient will be in intensive care. There's lots of debate about how the patients should be supported during this time. They may start to become hemodynamically unstable. They may even have a cardiac arrest. There are no hard and fast rules, and it's down to individual physician discretion. But it's widely considered that the insertion of a central line and vasopressors are appropriate to maintain tissue perfusion to bridge to organ transplantation. It's however considered that dialysis is a step too far. So whose responsibility is this? Anyone working in critical care, nurses, doctors, the boss, or medical students, anyone can think, give, patients GCS less than 5, intubated, ventilated, considering end-of-life care, give the organ transplant coordinator a call. Here are some good websites. The top website is where the brainstem testing proforma can be found. Thank you very much.